Oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted. So, this video, I don't even know if this video is going to be part of the sleep state that I'm talking about, or a completely different video. I think it should be a completely different video. But it has to do with the sleep state. But it also has to do with how to find these emotional injuries that we have occurred, or that have occurred during our childhood. Because it's very difficult, as an adult, it's very difficult to seek out these emotional injuries because they were so long ago. In addition to that, we have, being that they are emotional injuries, we have suppressed them on purpose. So we are purposely trying not to remember these occurrences that have taken place within our lives as a child. And this is very important. That's too bright. The sun's in my eyes and the sun is in your eyes. It's very difficult to find them because, like I said, we suppress them on purpose, willingly. We suppress them because we don't want to feel the pain that we tried to avoid when we were young, when we were a child. And when I say young, I mean like a child. Like it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It doesn't matter. You know, these things, they happen. You know, we all experience these painful events when we're young, and because of our society, we don't think much of it. We just know that it hurts. So I have some issues, obviously. Obviously, I have issues, right? Everyone has issues. But I have some particular issues, some specific issues. And one of my issues is with women. I could figure this out. For the longest, I couldn't figure it out. And the reason why I couldn't figure it out is because I didn't want to see it. Like, I would blame it on whatever I could blame it on. Maybe that's just how they are, whatever. But in order for me to understand why I even have issues with women, I have to go back to the very beginning. But what is that beginning? What is that point of inception for all of this to be in motion? That's the hard part. And let me tell you, it is not what I thought it was. Oh my gosh. And this was revealed to me last night in my sleep state. So, if you've been listening to my videos, and you know I have a jacked up family. I mean, it's effed up. Like, it just is. And, well, like most families, you know, but people don't want to admit it, it's jacked up. So, you heard some of the things that I've talked about in terms of my family members, my mother, and my sister, my brothers, and all that stuff. You've heard some of it. But there's this huge thing going on with my sister and myself. And I couldn't, it's, you know, the thing is, you know, I try to forgive. I'm like, okay, you know, I let it go. But something just wouldn't happen. It just, that process of letting go wasn't enough. Like, it just kept coming back. And I was like, well, what the hell is it? Like, I've already forgiven her for the things that she has done to me. And it's like, it wouldn't happen. Like, these feelings would come up, you know? It's like, why would they come up? I mean, we wouldn't even be talking, and all of a sudden these, you know, feelings would come up. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, I'm doing it. Like, freaking doing it. Like, I'm forgiving already. I've forgiven myself already. But it wasn't happening. And so if you have tried to forgive someone, but yet those feelings of anger or guilt or whatever comes up, there's something still there. There's a root, and we haven't identified what that root is. And let me tell you, when I found out, I was like, oh my gosh, really? Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it, man. It was okay. So let me tell you. So my sister and I, we are out of all of my siblings, we are the two. I don't even know if I can say all of us now, because for a while, we were the ones that were the most balanced. Like, myself and my sister were the most balanced. My older brother has issues using and alcoholism and things like that, and my little brother, he same thing. So I don't consider them to be the norm. At one point I thought, you know, whatever I thought, but it was weird. But now my sister is, oh my gosh. Here, let me just say this. When we're dealing with family members and there's a lot of pain that has taken place within the interactions, it's very difficult to forgive. It's the thing. Well, let me not say forgive, but it's difficult to pull away and love them at the same time. That's very, very difficult, because you don't want to hate them. And the thing is, when you do hate them, it's like some will feel guilty for hating them because that's not in you. Like, that's not in you. That's not who you are. So anytime you hate someone and you feel guilty, that's not in you. That's not part of your being. So I don't like when I hate people. I don't like when I get angry with people. And generally when I do, as I'm doing it, that's, you know, well, that's a different story too. But it's just, it's a weird place. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard spot, you know? So, this is the issue that I was having, is like, I couldn't be angry with her, but at the same time, I couldn't love her at the same time. And I tried, it's like, but you've done this to me. And this is the difficulty that I was faced with. It's like, well, what the hell do I do? So I was like, okay, fine, I'll let it go, right? It's like, fine, I forgive, we're done. Nope, it wasn't happening. Like, these feelings kept coming up. And it's like, even when we meet in person, there's resistance there. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what the F did I do, right? I couldn't figure it out, because I don't remember ever doing anything to my sister. One, I was younger than her by, what, 11 years? So what the hell could I possibly do to my sister for her to even hate me? Well, the thing is, my sister hated me since I was a child. But she doesn't know why. She has no idea why, and neither did I. Not until last night. Not until last night. So, I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden, well, first of all, yesterday I asked for clarity. I was like, I need to know what this is. I need this resolved. Like, if you want to call it a prayer, I just know I asked. I was like, this is what I truly desire. Whatever this is that I have within me that keeps bringing this up, I need to resolve it. I want to know the answer to this. And sure enough, 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, but I don't wake up. I become aware. And I become aware at a time where me and my sister were interacting with one another. And we were in the car, and I was in the back seat. And, hold on. I was in the back seat. And something was going on. It was right in the middle of something that was going on that I became aware of what was taking place. And she was being a mean bully. Like, but that's my sister. My sister is a bully. And I've never said this to her, and I've never said this to anybody else, but she's a bully. And she's a predator. And I can say this today because now I understand it. Before I would never say this, because I wasn't sure where it was coming from, even though I felt it. But now I know what it is, and I can truly say this, that she is a bully. And she preys on those who are weak. And the reason why she does this is, oh Lord, you got to be kidding me. There must have been a sign that said 50 miles per hour that I did not see, because this is ridiculous. Lord. I don't know if they should help him or help me. Somebody help somebody around here, because this is too much. Oh, pobrecito. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Bully, right? Bully. So, Anyway, that was taking place, and so we were about to start fighting, and then something within me said, don't do it, don't do it. And then another part of it was like, freaking do it and beat her effing ass, right? That's what is within me. That's what dwells within me, is I wanted to beat her ass. And the reason why I wanted to beat her ass is because of all the things that she has done to me growing up. She has bullied me for years, for decades, since I was a kid. This is what she has done, and this is within me. This is the emotional damage that's within me, the emotional injury that dwells within me. And I couldn't figure it out, but part of me wanted to not do it because I was like, don't do it because she has issues. And then the other part of me was like, just teach her a lesson so she'll just effing stop already. And that's just, look, that's just the truth of it. And so in this video that I'm making about the sleep state, I'm talking about this. So I'm completely aware as to what's going on. It just hasn't been revealed to me because I never wanted to see it. And the reason why I didn't want to see it is because I still wanted the approval of my sister. Because the thing is, the fact of the matter is, I don't have a lot of family. She's just, you know, one of the few members that I actually have to actually talk to. But it's like, you know, my thing is, now I'm looking at it like, why are we even talking? This woman cannot stand me. And she has been a bully towards me for so long, and why would I want that? Why would I want that? And then it hit me. Why abused or battered women stay with their husbands? It's because generally these individuals these women who are in these relationships with these battered women, these women who are in these relationships with these men who beat them, that car back there, they don't have anybody else. There isn't anybody else that they have. This man that is beating them is the only one that they have. So they're willing to hold on to the idea that this man will eventually love them, will eventually stop beating them. This is what's going on in their mind. And so they endure it. And part of it is fear. Fear that if they leave, who is going to be there when there's nobody else there? Now, as a child, I experienced this. This is how I know. This is how I know. See, I don't have to be a woman who has an abusive husband in order to understand this, because I experienced this as a child. So, and that was the whole root of all of this nonsense that I hold within myself. Why I've been attracting it to myself. And, but I was like, well, you know, because as a kid, I was emotionally abused, I was physically abused, I was sexually abused, I was just abused. Just all kind of manner you can think of, I was abused, right? So, oh God. So, I would, you know, when someone's abused and they don't have anyone to come to the rescue, what do? You know, when you yell for help, because I've yelled for help before and nothing ever happened. I've you know, prayed that someone would come and save me, and that's another component to this. Is I remember as a kid asking God, you know, do something, stop this from happening, and nothing happened. Like, my prayers just went unanswered. My yells for help went unanswered. And so this is how, so after a while, when you realize that no one's coming to your rescue, you give up. You give up. You don't say anything else, because you have already understood that it's pointless and this is your fate, and you sit with it and you live through it, and that's it. And that's it. That's all you do. There's no more fight in you, in terms of trying to prevent this from happening. So what happens is you turn into the aggressor yourself. You get angry, and you get angry at other people, and you lash out. And so I know that because I was a very angry person and I lashed out. And so now I understand why my sister did the things that she did to me. Not because she didn't love me, but because she couldn't. She didn't even have that in her. She didn't even know what that was. My sister had no idea what that was. And the thing is, before I even realized that, and we were like fighting in the car, because really I mean, really, I was about to choke that bitch in the car. I'm serious. I kid you not. This is what was being played out on the other side. And I talked about that the things that you suppress, you play out on the other side. You're just not aware of it. And so I wanted to know what was going on. And it was revealed to me as to what was going on. And this is what was taking place. And so, for some reason, my grandmother came into the picture. And I'm like, and I was literally watching this, and I was like, why am I seeing this? Why am I seeing this? I kept asking myself as I was aware of my sleep state. I was like, why am I seeing this? I was looking at my grandmother's life with her second husband. I have a different grandfather than the rest of my cousins. So, the first marriage is my mother and her brother, which those two, the eldest, are from the first marriage. The other one, all the other ones, I think there's 5 of them. The rest of the 5 are from the second marriage, and this is the one that I was being presented. I was like, why am I watching this? And so I had realized that, oh God, I realized that my grandmother was abused by her husband. There was a lot of abuse, domestic violence going on within the family. And so, oh, I don't know, maybe I cut a cop off back there. I saw someone trying to merge and I sped up. So, oh God. So anyway, I was being shown her life, and I was like, why is this? Why am I seeing this? And then my mother came into the picture. And then all my aunts came into the picture. And I understood why they hate men. See, my aunts, they despise men. They despise men. They probably won't admit it, but when you hear all the things that they say about men, you know that they despise men. So, and I remember my aunt when I was a child. I think I was like 5 years, maybe 5, 6. I don't know. I was a little boy, and she was arguing with her husband, and I was in the room, in their room on the bed taking a nap, and so they were arguing in the living room or whatever, and then she comes into the room, and she's arguing with him, and I'm in the room, and obviously I'm nervous. When people argue, like as a kid, I get extremely nervous and uncomfortable. So I remember lying there in bed, and she was babysitting me, I guess when my mom was at work, and and she was like yelling, and she's like, you know, think of an animal. She said, think of an animal, and I don't know. I don't remember what I said first. Maybe I said worm. But she was trying to get me to think of something to call him, and so she was like, you worm, you cow, you this, and so she was pulling me into this, and I felt very uncomfortable. But she didn't care. She knew I felt uncomfortable because I didn't want to say anything. I did not want to say anything at all. But she didn't care. And all she cared about was hurting her husband. And she was using me to do it, bringing me into it. And to understand this, I had to see what was going on with my grandmother in her life. Because this was, there's a lot of hatred that my aunts have towards men based on their experience in terms of their childhood watching their father beat and belittle their mother. And so they developed this hatred, including my mother. And then to top it off, the one man that is abusive to their mother kicks her out of the house for marrying a black man. So now she has even more rage. And now she has rage at this man, and she's very hurt and upset at the fact that her mother didn't do anything. Like, but what could she do? What could my grandmother do when she's the one that's being abused by the man who's kicking this lady out, who's not even his daughter? So when you start looking at all the the entire story, you start seeing where this comes from. Because as I have said before, when we are conceived, at that moment the soul enters the mother's womb, and these cells start developing and doing it's already done. At that moment, all the emotional injuries of the mother and the father are so that means that my mother got the emotional injuries of her parents and their grandparents. So all this stuff is already there. It's just already there, and it's just going to be continually played out. So anyway, I was able to see like why they hate men and why I was treated so badly growing up. Like I was just treated badly growing up, and I couldn't figure out why I was attracting all these women who were so abusive. So my aunts were abusive, my cousins who were female, they were all abusive. All my bosses who were female were abusive. It's just a continued cycle of this, and I didn't understand why it was happening, including my sister. Like, what was her deal? Well, she got it from my mother, and then she looks at the situation, and it reinstills. I guess it reinstills it. Or reinforces all these things, these emotional injuries are already within her, so now she's experiencing it in physical form. But one of the reasons that she was abusive to me, one, for that reason, and two, she despised my mother. So my sister was my protector. Even though she was abusive, she was my protector. And this is what I mean in terms of, I understand why women who are abused by their husbands stay. Like, I understand the dynamics of that, where a man will say I love you and beat you at the same time. Like, after they beat their wives or girlfriends, they comfort them. That's what they do. And that's what my sister was doing to me. But the reason why my sister was my protector is because she hated my mother. She couldn't stand my mother. And because of what my sister has experienced, I won't go into what she's experienced, but because of the things that she has experienced in her life, she blames my mother for it. So she believes that my mother wasn't a good mother. And that's her belief, and that's her feeling about it, and she has every right to have that feeling. But look, you need to stand on your side, sir. So she didn't like my mother, so she figured she would protect me and try to improve, like, I'm better than you, so I'm going to protect my little brother. But yet she would bully me at the same time, and this is the cycle that I'm talking about with the husband and the wife. It's the same thing. So, you know, we've always had this issue, and I'm thinking, what did I do? But the fact is, I didn't do anything. I was just born into the jacked up family that has these issues. Really, that's it. I didn't do anything. I mean, just being a male set things in motion for me. That's it. Being a male just set it in motion automatically. These women that I have been interacting with, it's already within them to hate men. They just don't know why they hate men. Now I understand why all the women that I've interacted with. Look, I've had some mean women. Mind you, being that I was raised by my mother only, I was surrounded by women all the time. So I know how conniving, how sneaky they can be, how they cheat, how they lie, how they scheme. I know all of it. Very, very well. And this is one of the reasons why I don't trust women. Because the thing is, it's not like, oh, not all women are like that. Well, yeah, you can say that. That's fine. But I won't give any of them a chance to prove me wrong. I won't. I don't even interact with women up close. Like, I can chat with them. I can help them out. They have some issues online. I can help them with that. But in terms of, like, relationships, how should I say? Like, in-person relationships, I can say. Like, I know a couple of them, and I mean a couple. I may only know one, but I have a couple of them that I'll talk to from here, from time to time, and, it's on the phone, and da-da-da-da-da. And we may hang out here and there, but it's rare. It's rare. But the reason why is because of these emotional injuries that I have within me. It's because of the way that I was treated growing up by women. So I have this fear within me, but this fear is from when I was a child. It's not from, like, it didn't start from when I was an adult. It started from when I was a child. And so there's a trust issue there. So it's like, I don't trust them. Well, why don't I trust them? Well, because of my experience. I remember my mother would leave me at these women's homes because they would babysit me, and I was terrified. I mean, terrified. And I would cry and cry like, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me here, you know? And I couldn't figure out, why are you leaving me here with these women, you know, who are mean when you leave? Like, these women are mean when you leave, Mom. Why are you? But I couldn't say that. I couldn't articulate that at the age of 4 or 5. And I also knew, because my mom kept saying, you know, I have to go to work, that's when we're going to eat, da-da-da-da-da-da. So I have all this other stuff floating around in my head as to why she's leaving me, and I have an understanding. So it's like, God, man, like, what the hell is going on? But I remember that I was so afraid to, like, I would run and go sit on the couch. You know, after my tears dried up on my face, I would sit on the couch and I would not move until my mom came and got me. Mind you, that's like over 8 hours. I would just sit on the couch and not move. That's how terrified I was. So, you know, it's just one of those things where I told you, like, after a while, when you cry for help and nothing happens, you just don't say anything anymore. You just sit there and you're like sitting in all of your helplessness and hopelessness. That's how you feel. You just sit there like that. So, but like, all this stuff was revealed to me last night, and I was like, son of a bitch. All of this nonsense, all because of this stuff that had nothing to do with me, but yet it's inside of me and I have to deal with it. Why do I have to deal with it? Because my parents didn't deal with it. And then there's issues with that, because as a kid, I didn't like being around men either. So to understand, and I tried to understand that one, I was like, well, what the hell is going on with that one? Well, I don't know if I mentioned it. I think I mentioned it in the video, but I remember when I was, I think I don't know, I think I was like between 1 and 2 or something like that. And my mom this was in Los Angeles, and my mother had went to his job and to, I guess, because they had separated, I think, by that time. And so she was taking me to see him so my dad can see his son. And I remember he worked in some kind of warehouse thing, and he was driving a forklift, and I was terrified. And but I would always cry when I was with my dad. I remember my mom putting me in the car seat, and I would scream bloody murder. I did not want to be with this man. And I remember being, like I said, at the job site, and I felt like he wanted to run me over and kill me. And I remember when I was around, I don't know, I was older. I don't remember how old I was, but it was to the point where I could talk. And I asked my mom, why did my dad want to kill me? And she looked at me, she's like, boy, what is wrong with you? Your dad, you know, never tried to kill you. And then later on, years and years and years and years later, I found out that I was a twin. And I'm like, I don't know why this came up. I think I asked my mother, I was like, do I have another brother or something somewhere? And she's like, why do you ask? I go, I don't know. I feel like there's someone else. And so she had told me that I was a twin and that she had miscarried. And she had miscarried because my father purposely kicked her in the stomach. Now, so I already had rejection on a soul level before I was even born. Before I was even born, the hatred that my father had towards my mother and me as a child, because she was carrying me within her womb, I felt that. And so I knew that it's already within my soul. So that emotion that he had towards me is within me. And so this is how this came about. So this is why I even had that idea that he tried to kill me, because of this experience that happened. So obviously back then I didn't know what I know now, so I couldn't put, the pieces together, but I can put them together now. With the assistance of what I experienced last night. So this is one of the reasons why I also had a fear of men, because it's just from that male energy when I was in my mom's stomach, that's all I knew, is this is what I should be afraid of from this gender, from this male energy. And I've always been afraid of men in that respect. So I never really went around them. But then the only thing that I had left was to be with my mom. So I was surrounded by all these women who hated men. And oh my God, let me tell you. So I got it from both ends. So this is why I don't want to be bothered with anyone. Like, it's within me to just shut down and not communicate so much. Like, I can do it online, but it takes a lot for me to, not so much now though, that's the thing, it's not so much now, but it plays out in different ways. It's not like, oh, I'm afraid to talk to the guy, or I'm afraid to talk to the woman. It's just, it's very difficult to explain. I don't have that feeling now, but yet that feeling is there in the back somewhere. It's like, okay, like I've never opened up. I don't open up, and it's interesting because a friend of mine on Facebook said, you're so closed off and cold. And that's true. I am closed off in that respect. Like, I don't know anything else. So, and this is part of the reason why I'm sharing this story, is because when you experience that kind of pain and rejection, because I was rejection from both male and female that I was getting directed towards me. And the reason why I was directed towards me is because it was already in my soul. These emotional injuries were already in my soul, and therefore it had to come to me. Law of attraction says you have to have these fucked up experiences because they're yours now. They're just yours, and it's something that I have to deal with, and so I'm dealing with it. But the issue was, I kept trying to deal with it, and nothing was happening. Like, I kept telling you, I tried to forgive and say it was okay and let it go, and, they didn't know what they were doing, but I didn't have proper understanding as to where all this was coming from. And so it goes all the way back to my childhood, all the way back to when I was beaten. I was always, yelling for help, and I prayed to God so much. Like, as a kid, I prayed to God until after a while, I just didn't do it anymore. And it's interesting because a friend of mine the other day had asked if I pray, and I'm like, Now, I didn't answer his question because of his mental processing, how he processes things. But I knew why, like, I was like, I don't pray. Like, I just don't do it. But I know I have a connection, but I don't pray. Like, I just don't. But it's like I have a connection, but I don't have a connection. Like, I know the connection is there, but I limit myself as to how far I will go. And this is based on my childhood. So what was happening when I was a child? Well, I would pray that God save me, that save me from this pain that was happening. Save me from the beating, save me from the abuse, save me from all of these different things. I'm like, please send someone to stop this from happening. And nothing happened. So, but the thing is, you have to understand how prayers work. And what I was doing, nothing was going to happen. But what I do ask for is clarity. That's what I do ask for, is clarity. I'm always asking, even as a child, I would ask for clarity. I want to understand why this is happening. And so when people ask, why do you know so much? Because I want to know why things are happening. I want to know why. And that's just who I am. I want to know. So I make it a point to know. And now I ask. I ask questions. And when I ask questions, the answers come to me. So, yeah, I wanted to share that so that you can see that this stuff is so deep, and you don't think that it's connected to it, or you don't think that the issues that you're experiencing are connected to other things. You think they're surface things, and they're not. Like, I would have never thought that my issues with women was tied to my childhood, like in the manner that is connected. I would have never thought that, but I understand it now, and it's funny because now I think of the situations with my sister, and that anger, it's not there anymore. Like, it's not there anymore. Overnight, it was gone because I understood. And that's what you really want to look for. That's what you want to know. Is you want to understand. And that's what people don't want to do, is understand. You have to understand it. Now, some of the things I can do like that, but this is one of the things that I couldn't do. I just couldn't work that out. But I wanted to work it out. I'm capable of working it out. Every single person is capable of working this stuff out if you ask for clarity. And oh my God, I came to work again doing this stupid video. So, oh well, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Good evening. Which is a lot different than good morning or good afternoon. Anyway, I needed to get this video out. And I didn't have a chance to do it earlier. I was tapped. I was so tapped. I was done. But I wanted to talk about this experience that I had last night, because it's starting to. I don't know how to explain it. Today at work, there was this this knot in my stomach all day long, and I was so exhausted. And it was from suppressing everything that was revealed to me last night. And so what I mean by that is, when I kind of talked about it, I talked about it in the video that I'm making, not this one, but the one that the sleep state one. When we suppress our emotional injuries, it takes a lot of energy to do that. And what's happening is the soul is using a great amount of energy to deny that which is there. So it has what's real, it has the reality, which is the pain that we have experienced and we haven't dealt with, so we're suppressing it. So the soul is taking care of that, trying to suppress it, and creating a facade as if nothing is wrong. So that's a lot of energy. Plus what it's doing is it's powering the spirit body and trying to maintain its degraded condition and the physical body's degraded condition. So it's trying to prevent all of this stuff from coming up. So it's holding all this stuff in addition to trying to do all of this in its own degraded state. So there's a lot of energy that takes place during this type of suppression, or during suppression. This is why people age. They look, the people who age, they hold a lot of stuff in, and their body degrades more rapidly because the soul is degrading in its condition, holding all this stuff within it. So it basically falls apart faster. So that's what's happening. And so today I went to work. I should have stayed home. My first thought was to stay home, but I was like, you know what? It's Friday. Just go and get it over with. But all day, in order to function in the setting that I was in, I couldn't just break down and cry and let these emotions come up. So what happened was I was suppressing it, and it was just this weird knot in my stomach. And I was like, ugh. It's almost like... So when I was having the experience last night and all this stuff was being revealed to me, I was feeling everything. I was feeling the rage at my sister. I was feeling the pain and the anger from my aunts and my mother towards men. I was feeling the fear that I was experiencing as a child, that I told you was the root of all of this. Now, that feeling that I was feeling when I was a child, that's the root of all of it. Like, that's where all of my problems started. You see, I had mentioned that I would cry when my mother would leave me with these women to babysit me, and I told you that they were mean and abusive, and so just women in general. But the thing is, the reason why that happened to me specifically, because this doesn't happen to everybody, but it happened to me specifically because it's part of my emotional injuries. that I have, and I got them from my mother, and I got them from my father. So, how would I explain this? It's easier to talk about this stuff when it's not regarding me. I can tell you that. It should be the other way around, but when you deny things, it's like it's just much more difficult. But since it was revealed to me last night, I can talk about it more clearly than I could have in the past. But what I was, the reason why this stuff is in me is because of all the projections that were made towards me, or that were made towards my mother. All the things that my mother had experienced, I got. So all the rejection that she received from her stepdad, the rejection that she, and the abuse that she incurred from her stepdad, the abuse from her first husband, the abuse from my father. So my little brother got all of what we got, plus what well, how should I say this? So I got all the emotional injuries up until I was born, in terms of when I came in, when I was conceived. And my brother got all of the additional ones that my mother had incurred from the time she had my little brother. So the thing is, we all get, it just keeps piling up more and more and more. So my sister and my brother, they got a certain amount of emotional injuries, but then my mother, since she was in an abusive relationship with their father, then see, how do I, it's really, it's compounding. So as the children keep coming, they get more emotional injuries. Like, that's just the way it's set up, because obviously we live life and we go through these experiences based on what's already within us, and so we create more of this nonsense, these emotional injuries, and then when the next child comes in, they get all of those additional ones, in addition to what everybody else already has, basically. Okay, so I was getting these since all these, my mother had incurred all of these emotional injuries from her stepdad, and then her husband, and then my dad came along and I got that stuff. So I have all these women, in addition to all these spirits who are attaching to my aunts, who are attaching to my mother, who are attaching to my sister. They're not just doing this on their own. They have help. So I'm getting all of that. All of that stuff is coming towards me. And so Law of Attraction is doing its own thing too, where it's coming in and saying, okay, you have this in you, so I'm going to have to bring you this woman. I'm going to have to bring you that woman. I'm going to have to bring you this one. I'm going to have to bring you that one. I mean, that's what Law of Attraction does, is it brings you all of this stuff to let you know that this is within you. Now, this is something that I couldn't understand with, you know, the whole women thing. Is like, I just didn't get it. You know, it's like, why was all this stuff happening? But what I realized in my sleep state last night is the original injury, or the original pain that I felt. Oh, so this is why I actually wanted to start this video tonight. It's not about the things that were done to me. So it's not about the things that are done to you. It's the emotional pain you felt while it was being done. That is the only thing that is important. And this is where a lot of people get caught up. And I was getting caught up in it, because I was like, well, you know, I couldn't figure out what it was. And you know what, you always hear me say, go to your childhood, go to your childhood. But sometimes we block these things and we won't go there. It's like we won't even think about going to this place that we need to go. So that's what makes it really difficult. But like I said before, I wanted to know what the heck was going on, because I needed to fix this. I need this to be gone so that I can continue to progress. And like I said, it was revealed to me. And all these experiences, like I said, my sister, that incident was happening, and then I was showing my grandmother, and then my aunts came in, and then, you know, everything was happening, and then it went all the way back to how I felt during all these times when I was young, when I was like 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. And I told you that, you know, I was abused a lot. So, and I told you that I kept asking, you know, for help, you know, screaming, crying for help, you know, someone help me, you know, get me out of this. And I told you, I asked God to help me, please help me, please, you know, make this stop. And it wouldn't happen. And that is the part that was revealed to me, is the helplessness, the loneliness. I did not feel loved. I felt like no one cared whatsoever. And I was just stuck in this trap of pain. And I just thought that I thought that I was so bad that I deserved all of this, because there was no other explanation that I could come up with. So I literally just felt that I deserved everything that I got. And so this is when the doubt came in. This is when, you know, I started feeling like, you know, I'm stupid, I don't know anything. Then it came, you know, and then going through school, you know, I wasn't liked because of my mixed race, and so, you know, black people hated me, and so I was, you know, self-conscious about that. And I mean, all of these things were all part of these moments when I felt my voice didn't matter. Like, it just didn't matter, or I didn't matter. And so this is why I didn't say anything. And so a lot of people thought that I was shy, but I wasn't shy. I personally am an outgoing person. You probably have realized that already, but growing up, people thought I was really shy. They go, oh, he's so shy, he's so quiet, he's so well-mannered. And then I started to realize that if I don't say anything, people will compliment me. And that's what was happening. Like, people would, I mean, as a child, I'm like, oh, wow, he's so well-behaved. And I learned how to not say anything. I learned how to not have a voice. And by the time, you know, this family member came about and wanted to start molesting, it's like I didn't say anything, because I didn't feel I could say anything, and I didn't think it would ever matter, and I didn't want anyone to be mad at me if I spoke up. And this is like I'm saying, this is like the start of everything, and this is how this snowball started going. But it really started from that moment I decided that my voice didn't matter. And so I've had all of these, like, so growing up, when people would do things to me, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't tell. I just wouldn't say a word, because I had already accepted the fact that it didn't matter what I said, nothing was ever going to happen. And similar things were happening with my siblings. And so this is the thing, is you start getting angry when you're not heard. And so this is what I was experiencing. And so this emotional injury, I mean, like, when I asked for clarity about this, I asked for the root. That's what I asked for. Specifically was the root of all of it. And I was taken back to the root of all of it. And taken back to the point where it all started. And I couldn't have asked for, I have to thank myself for asking that question in that way, because if I had asked, you know, why is this happening, or why does that keep happening, I would have been doing this for forever. And so you know, like I said, I found out what the root issue was that caused every single chain of events that took place within my life, and that was it. But then the thing is, like I said, it didn't have anything to do with me. It was this junk that my parents had that they didn't deal with. And so I had to deal with it, and here I am dealing with it, and thank God I'm dealing with it. Like, I'm actually working through this stuff. So not that I'm gonna have kids or anything like that, because they're expensive, okay? First of all, I mean, you never know what happens later, but as of right now, that's not in the picture for me. So it's just important to understand how this works, in terms of trying to find the root of your problems. if you do want to work on yourself, if you do want to find out what these emotional injuries are in order to change your life, you have to be serious about it. You really have to be serious about it. I mean, because this request that you're asking, it's not something you can just say, oh, I want to know, because these questions about your emotional injuries, and you want clarity and you want to move forward, whether you're on a spiritual journey or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, these questions must be answered with emotions involved. You have to be emotionally invested in this. It can't just be in the head like, oh yeah, I just want my problems to stop, because that's not going to work. You really have to, you have to give a heartfelt plea. You really have to long for this. You have to desire for it. It has to be true. It has to be with your emotion. It has to be with your heart, your entire being, because that's the only way it can be answered. One, that's the only way prayers are answered. Prayers are not answered by the head. It's answered through emotion, because all of your emotional injuries, they're all emotional. That's why they're called emotional injuries. They're emotional experiences that have caused you pain, or that is pain. And so when you get clarity, you're going to feel that. And look, I felt it. And it was interesting, because as I was lying there experiencing all of this, I didn't realize that there were tears that were coming out of my eyes, but that's what was happening. They were really coming, they were coming out of my eyes, and I knew that's what it was. And I was like, okay, I found it, because I couldn't find it. I didn't know where the hell to look for this stuff, but I found it. And it's an ugly feeling, going back to when you're a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old, and you feel like you're nobody, you just don't matter, and nobody cares, and nobody loves you. I mean, come on. I mean, it's an awful feeling. And I don't know if some of you have felt it. Maybe some of you have. But, the thing is, going back to my sister, I had mentioned her earlier, but I said she bullied me, but it wasn't the type of bullying where she hit me. I mean, she pushed me around to show her force, to show her authority, to show her power, because that's what she needs, based on her experiences as a child. And so, and she still does it today. She still does it today. And one of the things that I know my sister really hates is that I have this clarity, and I'm not supposed to have this clarity because of my age, because I'm her younger brother. So it just goes against her whole belief of her her knowing more than me because I'm younger. She has this belief, and I can tell, because every time I say something that makes some sense, she's like, whatever. She'll just disregard it. But that's what she does, is she downplays everything, and she attempts to make things she attempts to make whatever I say seem insignificant. And she doesn't just do it with me. She does it she does it with a lot of people. She does it with my little brother. She even does it with her older brother. I mean, and he's a year older. I mean, this is what she just knows how to manipulate the mind of another to make them feel like shit, basically. That's what she does. And she does it to shut him down. That's my sister. That's just what she does. That's her thing. But the thing is, anybody else that I talk to can disregard anything that I say. They can try to make me seem insignificant. They can try to make it seem like the things that I say are worthless, and that stuff doesn't bother me. But when she does it, that's the stuff that bothers me. That's the time, I should say, is when it bothers me. But the reason why it bothers me when she does it is because it's connected to an emotional injury. She is connected to an emotional injury because she caused emotional injuries. She is the one, not a stranger on the street. She's the one. So when she says it, it has a great impact. Now, this is interesting because she's supposed to be able to trigger this within me. She is the one. This is why every time I think about just, talking to her, it's like these feelings is like, do I really want to talk with her? These feelings come up, but she's the one that is meant to trigger this. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. She is my law of attraction. Like, she's the one that says her presence lets me know that there's something wrong within me. Other people can I've already accepted that. Like, I understand how other people work. I understand that their opinion is their opinion, and how they view things is based on their experience. So that stuff doesn't bother me. But when she does it, that's a different story. However, after last night, after I let some of this stuff out, I can think about her and it's not there anymore. Like, it's literally gone. Like, I don't want to say it's completely gone, but I would have to try to force myself to think about her and something negative. Like, I can think about it, but because of what I was shown in terms of what she has gone through, where this all comes from, it's almost like I don't blame her anymore. She's no longer the cause of this. I understand where the cause is, or where the cause came from. It wasn't my sister. My sister was an effect of the cause. Does that make sense? So once that became clear, there was an understanding. And so I was able to now view her as this person who is now hurting still. And the reason why she hurt me is because she's in pain. Before, I didn't see that. I would it's the cause of my pain. So, looked like my phone stopped doing something. So it was, but that's the way it was supposed to be with her. But since I found it, it's like she's no longer needed for that. Like, I can release her from that, if that makes any sense. So even though, you know, it's like, I guess that's enough for that. But just again, you know, it wasn't about her being a bully. That's not what this was all about. It has nothing to do with her, which is the whole reason why I'm sharing this. So I know there's people out there who blame their mother, who blame their family members, who blame their uncles, who blame their friends. It doesn't matter who it is. That's not important. I mean, this is how elusive this thing can be. Like, it has nothing to do with what they did. It has everything to do with the pain that you felt. That is the most important thing out of this entire video, is to remember what you felt, that initial pain that you felt. How do you feel when you interact with whomever you interact with that caused you pain? That person that you're avoiding, that when you're avoiding someone like that, you're avoiding experiencing the pain. So as you imagine yourself interacting with that person, feel the emotions that are coming up. Not from an adult perspective, but because an adult perspective, as an adult, you're not going to want to feel the pain. But as a child, think about the last time when you were a child and you felt that pain. Because at that point, it's going to come up fast, and it's going to come up true. And that's what was happening. Like, all these events were being shown to me, and even though, you know, I was showing these different things, like, you know, the times that I was abused, the thing that stood out the most is how I felt. How I felt. And generally it was how I felt afterwards. Not during it, because during it, there's a lot of things going on in your mind. But afterwards, how lonely did you feel? How insignificant did you feel? How unsafe did you feel? These are the things that you want to look for. These are the emotional injuries that you really want to try to get to in order to explain some of the other things that you want answers to. But these are the roots, and you want to find the roots. And so, you know, a lot of times that when people would argue, I kind of mentioned my aunt, but when people would argue, I felt like it was always my fault. Like, how could that argument be my fault? But that's a belief that I had. But the reason why I had that belief, because I had already decided that I'm the cause of all of this. There was nothing else around. I just knew that I was bad. I was something was wrong with me, and it was my fault that all of this stuff was happening. Because, like I said, my screams, my prayers, my pleas, all of them went unanswered. And so as a child, you can only come up with the only explanation that you can with that limited consciousness that you had at the time, which was, it's just me. Nobody else, you don't see anybody else experiencing this, so it has to be me. And so I felt that everything was my fault. Like when my mom, and I remember when my mom couldn't pay a bill and she was all mad and upset, I thought it was my fault. And I thought, if I was never born, then she wouldn't have to feed me. She wouldn't have to put a roof over my head. She wouldn't have to do all of these things. Like, this is the stuff that I was conjuring up in my mind, because everything that was bad that happened, it had to be my fault. I mean, why else would this? I mean, I couldn't figure anything else out. So that's the thing is, and this goes back, to why I was so shy. So, I was thinking to myself, all of this is, I felt it was because of me. I felt no one cared. I felt no one loved me. I felt that I was damaged. I felt that I was unlovable. So, like, I mentally crawled into a little ball and said nothing. That's what happened. And the reason why I did that is because if I don't say anything, then I won't be noticed. That's the thinking that I had as a child, is if I don't say anything, then I won't be noticed. And if I'm not noticed, then nothing bad will happen. Like, there wouldn't be a reason. Because, again, like I said, I thought that I was the cause of everything. So I felt if I was, like, not noticed at all, none of this stuff would happen. And this is where this whole shy thing came from. Like, people really thought that I was shy, but I'm not a shy child at all. I mean, my real self, I'm not shy at all. But I had to be that. From my understanding at that point, with that limited consciousness, that's what I felt I had to be. So I was like, strategically trying to manipulate the situation to my benefit, and that's what I thought I had to do. So, nobody wants to hear a child, right? And it's funny because children aren't supposed to be heard. Like, that's what I heard. Like, I remember my aunt, clearly, children are not supposed to be heard. I just remember this stuff. So when children hear these things, they start putting a puzzle together. Mind you, a puzzle together. And so I put the puzzle together the best way I knew how, given the information that I had at the time. So, I just, when you hear, go sit down, shut up, all these different things, you take note. And I was a child that took note. And maybe I took note too well, because I noticed things and I used it and I started making decisions. And this is what happened, is like I created myself in this way. I'm responsible for it. And I know some people will say, well, you were just a child, you weren't responsible, but I was making decisions. At that age, I was making strategic decisions. And so I do hold myself responsible for some of these things, these decisions that I have made, because they were my decisions. I chose to do this. Of course, there were external things that were happening, but I made the choice to do that. And so I own it. And the good thing about that is, since I own it, I feel that I can change that. Now, if I felt that someone else did this to me, then that would be a whole different thing. That would be something else that I would have to work with. And I'm like, why did you do that to me? Blah, 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 blah. But I can be accountable for that. I can be accountable for that at 40. At 40. So, I kind of talked about, like, the rejection. So I got rejected from my sister, my grandmother, my aunts, my uncles. And that was really interesting. Because my uncles have judgment against me. And the thing is, I can't blame it on them, because I have, that emotional injury within me. So that's a vibration. That's a frequency that is within me. And so it's going to attract these like frequencies that are going to support the frequency that I have. So if I feel that I'm not worth anything, and my uncles have some issue with whatever, and I'm a target, then that fits like a glove. So I'm supposed to be worthless. They're supposed to look at me like I'm worthless. Do you understand how that works? So your vibrational or your emotional injuries are frequencies, and so they are going to attract everything to support that frequency to let you know that it's there. Does that make sense? So it's like and like I remember going to a funeral. It wasn't too long ago, and I don't really talk to my family that often. I don't see them very often, but there was a funeral that I had gone to, and I went into, like, you know, I saw my uncles there, and I hadn't, you know, seen them in a long time, and so I thought everything, you know, time fixes everything, and I went in, you know, to shake their hand and hug them, and like they pushed me away, and I was just like, okay, and I was like, what the hell? Like, I haven't talked to you in I don't know how long. Like, there was no fallout, there was nothing. And so these are the things that I couldn't make any sense out of, but now I know where they're coming from. So, and I kind of mentioned it, you know, it came from, the emotional injury comes from my father, and the rejection that I had from him. And unfortunately, my twin did make it, you know, because of him, because of the anger and rage that he had directed towards my mother and, you know, us. He didn't know it was us at the time. He just thought that my mother was pregnant with one child, but there were two. He didn't know that. I don't know if he ever knew that. I don't know if he ever knew that there was a twin, because when my mom miscarried, it happened in a way where it just kind of like happened. It just happened, but I don't even know if he knew about it. So I don't know. I know some of this stuff. Some of this stuff is, you know, it's a lot, but I think it should be talked about so that other people can understand what to look for when they're trying to work on themselves in this manner. Just understand that energy finds supporting energy. So, you know, I don't know. So just remember, it's about the original emotional injury that that you experienced at the time that whatever happened. I mean, this video, I don't know about this video. Anyway, I'm hungry. I'm gonna get something to eat, but I wanted to finish this. I didn't want it to go into tomorrow because, you know, when you wake up, you're totally different. And so, you know, I'm still in the day-to-day. I can still remember last night. I can still remember how I felt. I remember the tears. I remember everything. And so I wanted to make sure that I finish this video today and not wait. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to let me know. I mean, like, just type something in the comments. And if you're on my Facebook or whatever, hit me up on Facebook, and if you're not on my Facebook, then hit me up on Facebook. And yeah, that's it. So hopefully this will help some of you. I know some of you can relate to some of the things that I was mentioning in terms of how you felt as a child. So those are the feelings that you need to go to. Those are the original injuries, because those are the injuries that set everything in motion. Those moments were the deciding moments for the rest of your life. Everything that you were experiencing, see, those things were already in your soul. So the things that you were physically experiencing, all of those things were being revealed to you in physical form. Does that make sense? It was already there within you, in your soul. You got it from your parents. So I know some of you are having a difficult time going back to your childhood because it's so painful, but you have to. If you want to heal, you have to go there. It's not fun. No, I can tell you it's not fun. And did I want to experience that pain last night that I felt when I was a child, that helpless, hopeless feeling? No, but at the same time I was like, I have to. The whole time, like, when I was feeling, I was like, I have to. I just have to. Part of me wanted to just cut it off. And I just know that I had to endure it and find out because I had asked for it. I just knew that it needed to be played out, and I did that. And the thing is, when I got to work, I was listening to the video that I had made this morning, and I listened to it about 3 times, and every single time in these 2 moments in the video, I started tearing up. But I was like at the office, I was like, I can't do this here. And this is where that knot was coming from, because it was like something is there, and I was like, I can't do it. But in the video, there's 2 moments where it just hits me, and because it's true, and because it's the pain that I have suppressed and did not want to feel, and have not wanted to feel, and I do not want to feel it, but I have to. Like, I have to force myself to do this in order to move forward. And only because I want to move forward. Not because I think, oh, this is what I have to do to move forward. Like, I really want to experience this. So, like, fully experience this. Because once you cut it off, you have to start all over. So the tears, because during last night when I was sleeping, I cut it off at some point. Like, I was like, I don't want to do this right now. I'm like, I don't know how loud I'm gonna be. I was like, I don't want to do this. But I felt it enough to know that it was there, but I did not fully process it, and this is why I should have stayed home. But I didn't. So when I listened to the video, there's a couple of parts. One part is, I don't know. When I was talking about how I would run, after I would cry, I would run to the couch and just sit there all day long, because I had already developed in my mind, or decided in my mind, that I'm not supposed to move. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. So if I don't move, everything will be cool. And this is why I sat in one place for so long, because of that belief that I had, decided to have within myself. That part is when I start to tear up. And then there's another part, and that part is when I talk about when I ask God to help me, to save me. Now, I had mentioned to you that I don't pray, and that's one of the reasons why I don't pray. Now, I didn't fully realize it. I mean, like, I knew that I don't, like, I realized that I don't pray, but I didn't know where it was coming from. I had no idea what was coming from. And so this is important, because what this says is that either I am angry with God. I believe that's what it was. I was angry at God for not helping me at all. See, I've always believed that there was a God. So I never not believed that there was a God. I just believed that God didn't care. But that didn't turn me into an atheist. That's what it didn't do. I just felt that God didn't care. And so at some point, I didn't allow God to be part of my life. So for all this time, basically, I didn't allow God to be part of my life. I knew there was a God, but there wasn't a relationship. And so I started to rekindle this relationship. But I've been doing it in a way that is with my emotions, because when I was a child, it was a little different. It was a little different than how I'm approaching it now. So the relationship is better. But I realize that I don't talk to God. I don't pray. That's not something I do. But one of the reasons why I don't is because I feel that I can take care of this myself. Like, I can take care of all of this myself. But this is what one does when no one has anyone around. You take care of yourself, and this is why I'm overly independent. Like, I don't ask anyone for anything. I will do it myself, and it's actually very difficult for me to ask for help. And it's like, if I ask for help, then for me it's like a sign that I'm not capable, and I believe that I'm capable, if that makes any sense. So anyway, though, if you just I talk about this part because it's important, because this was one of the reasons why I didn't have, I felt so, like, I truly felt alone. Like, most people say, oh, I have God. I didn't feel I even had that. So I was, it was really interesting. It was really interesting. Now looking at it, I'm like, okay, I can see this, and I can actually process this. So at some point I will process it, but I'm tired as hell right now, and I'm I'm tapped, and just from last night I was tapped. So anyway, that's it. That's the video. So again, you guys are loved, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye now.